You know how people say life can change in a single moment? I always imagined mine would explode with drama, screaming, tears, maybe a slammed door echoing through the house. But when it finally happened, it was silent. It started with a glint, something small, almost invisible, on the edge of our bathroom rug. Morning sunlight crept through the blinds, slicing the room into stripes of gold and shadow. I remember stepping in, still half asleep, when something metallic flickered in the corner of my eye. I bent down, expecting a loose button, maybe a coin, but it wasn't that. It was a tiny piece of foil, perfectly round, shiny on one side, and on the other, a single word, "Tuz." I stared at it for a moment, confused, until it hit me. It was Wednesday, and that little foil circle didn't belong there. My heart started to race, not because of what it was, but because of what it meant. Because in that quiet, ordinary moment, I realized sometimes the biggest betrayals don't shout. They whisper. Stay till the end, because this isn't just about what I found on that rug. It's about what it uncovered, a truth that tore everything apart. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Dark Infidelity Stories, where every secret starts small and ends with a heartbreak you never saw coming. I wasn't taking any medication. At 35, I was healthy, the kind of guy who only popped an aspirin after a rough gym day. Megan, my wife, wasn't on any prescriptions either. We both had our annual checkups. Everything clean. Everything normal. So why was there a foil backing from a pill pack lying on our bathroom floor? I tried to brush it off, maybe a random piece of packaging, something the kids brought in. But something deep in my gut told me otherwise. That subtle, creeping dread you feel when a detail doesn't fit, and your brain refuses to let it go. Because there was one kind of pill Megan used to take, years ago, before I had my vasectomy. Her birth control pills. Back then it made sense. We'd agreed 2 kids were enough, and after my procedure she told me she didn't need them anymore. We even joked about it, how she was finally free of daily reminders. But now, here I was holding a piece of foil labeled Tuesday, and suddenly everything I believed about my marriage started to wobble. She was still taking birth control. What was she protecting herself from? I was sterile. There was no reason for it, unless she was protecting herself from someone else. I wanted to dismiss the thought, I really did. But I couldn't. And something in me, maybe the engineer, maybe the wounded husband, decided that before I confronted her, I needed proof. I returned the foil exactly where I'd found it. Then I cleaned up, acted normal, and drove to work. But that whole day, my mind wasn't on blueprints or numbers. It was spinning around that single, terrifying question. Who was she taking those pills for? By lunch, I was searching online for private DNA kits and discreet surveillance gear. Tiny cameras, voice recorders, even phone cloning software. It felt insane, paranoid even, but I couldn't shake the thought that my life might not be what I thought it was. That night, when I got home, I smiled, kissed Megan, played with the kids, and quietly felt my world slipping sideways. Over the next few days, I became someone else. I watched, listened, waited. Megan was normal, almost too normal. She went to work at the same time, texted me throughout the day. We still made love once or twice a week, not wild or passionate, but familiar, domestic, safe. If she was hiding something, she was damn good at it. When Friday came, I got a delivery at work, the cameras, recorders, and DNA test kits. I told Megan I had an easy afternoon and went home early. The babysitter was with the kids, so I slipped upstairs, installing cameras in the bathroom, the bedroom, and the living room. Quiet, calculated, methodical, like I was debugging my own life. That night, after the kids were asleep, I swabbed their cheeks for the DNA kits. They giggled, thinking it was a game. "Daddy's checking our cheeks," they laughed. They didn't know I was really checking my reality. When I was done, I swabbed myself, sealed the samples, and mailed them to the lab. The results were supposed to take 48 hours, 2 days that felt like 2 years. I spent that weekend trying to act like nothing was wrong. We went to the park, had breakfast together, did chores. From the outside, we looked like a perfectly normal family. But inside, I felt like a ghost watching my own life play out. By Monday, I couldn't take it anymore. Megan left for work, kissed me goodbye, told me she'd pick up groceries on the way home. I waited until her car disappeared down the street, Then I pulled the micro SD cards from the hidden cameras. My hands trembled as I loaded the footage onto my computer. The first clips were normal, the kids brushing their teeth, Megan doing her makeup. Then came the part that made my chest tighten. Every morning, around the same time, she opened the medicine cabinet, took out a small white pill and swallowed it with water. The foil packet matched the one I'd found. No doubt, she was still taking birth control. I sat there in silence, watching the proof I never wanted to see. Then I forced myself to keep going. I opened the footage from the bedroom camera. That's when I saw it, something that shattered the thin thread of denial I'd been clinging to. I used to think I knew every corner of our house. Every sound, every shadow, every little routine that made up our quiet suburban life. But that illusion shattered the evening I caught her secret. I was in the kitchen, stirring dinner, lost in thought, when I heard the soft creak of our bedroom door upstairs. Megan had just come out of the shower. A few minutes later, I heard faint typing, not from her usual phone. Something about the rhythm of the clicks made me curious. Later, when I checked the footage from the hidden camera, my heart nearly stopped. There she was, hair still damp, wrapped in a towel, typing on a phone I didn't recognize. Not the one I had cloned days earlier. A second phone. She finished typing, glanced toward the hallway, then walked to the air conditioning vent near the dresser. With practiced care, she pulled the grate open and slid the phone inside. My blood ran cold. She had a secret phone, one she kept hidden from me all this time. No wonder I'd found nothing on her regular phone. No wonder her messages were spotless. This was where she kept the truth. That night, after she'd gone to bed, I moved through the dark house like a thief. I checked the vent from the opposite side, the one that opened into our daughter Sonia's room. But it was empty. She must have moved it, so I waited. A few days later, the opportunity came again. Megan was in the shower, water running full blast. I slipped quietly into Sonia's room, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I opened the vent, and there it was. The secret phone nestled in the shadows. Hands trembling, I grabbed it, dashed to my office, and cloned everything to a fresh device. Every second felt like a lifetime. The adrenaline was blinding, my heart hammering against my ribs as I heard the shower shut off. I slid the phone back, replaced the vent cover, and ducked into Sonia's room, pretending to watch her sleep just as Megan peeked in. "Couldn't sleep?" she whispered. I smiled, my heart trying not to explode. "Just checking on her," I said. The next morning, once I got to my office, I finally opened the cloned data. What I saw made my stomach turn. Message after message, each one worse than the last. Megan's words were explicit, shameless. She joked about sneaking away to hotels, about long lunches that weren't lunches at all. And the part that broke me? She laughed about how clueless I was. They coordinated around my business trips, careful never to mention names. Whoever he was close enough to her that she didn't need to write his name, she just called him you. My chest tightened. My vision blurred with tears. The intercom on my desk buzzed, my secretary Michelle checking in. I ignored it. Then came a knock and she stepped inside before I could pull myself together. Michelle was sharp, the kind of woman who could smell lies a mile away. When she saw my face, red and broken, she closed the door softly and handed me a tissue. "Gary, what happened?" she asked gently. I told her everything. The foil in the bathroom, the cameras, the second phone, even the DNA tests I'd secretly ordered for the kids. I felt insane just saying it out loud. Michelle didn't flinch. She just listened, calm, practical, like someone who'd been through fire before. When I finished, she nodded. "Okay," she said. "Then we need facts. And a plan." When I told her about the DNA test, she simply said, "Good. You'll want the truth, all of it. But for now, we need to buy time." Before I could ask what she meant, she was already on her phone. "You're flying to Portland today," she said. "Tell Megan there's an emergency at the branch office. You'll be gone until Thursday." I frowned. "There's no..." "Trust me," Michelle interrupted. "You hovering around home right now will only make her nervous. Go. Let her relax. The more she thinks she's safe, the sloppier she'll get." She even texted Megan from my phone while I sat there watching. "Emergency in Portland. Might be gone a few days." Megan's reply came within seconds. "Oh no, hope everything's okay. Come back soon." It was almost too casual. Before I left, Michelle gave me a name, Lorraine Keller, a divorce attorney she swore by. "She saved my life," Michelle said, "and she'll know exactly what to do with yours." By that evening, I was sitting in Lorraine's downtown office, still in shock. She was calm, confident, the kind of person who spoke like she'd seen it all. After I explained everything, she outlined my options in plain English. Do nothing. File amicably. Or go nuclear. Go nuclear? I repeated, my throat dry. An adultery filing, she said. It will devastate her legally. She'll lose claim to most of your assets, and if those DNA tests prove the children aren't biologically yours, her position collapses completely. My pulse hammered in my ears. Do nothing? Impossible. File amicably? Why should I hand over half my life to someone who betrayed me? I looked Lorraine in the eyes and said, I want the nuclear option. She nodded once. Then we gather more evidence. Give me the cloned phone. I'll start the chain of proof. I handed it over without hesitation. After that, Michelle booked me into a modest hotel. Order dinner, take a shower, stay away from the mini bar, she warned. You need a clear head. But clear wasn't possible. I sat on that bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything I'd built, every ounce of love, every memory, had been so easily dismantled. The only sliver of hope left was the DNA test. Maybe, just maybe, the kids were mine. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a notification. The results were ready. I froze. My hand hovered over the screen, unable to move. Michelle noticed. She gently took the phone, loaded the page, then frowned. Not yet, she said softly. They're still processing. We'll check again later. In the meantime, she reminded me that my company, our engineering firm, depended on me keeping my head. Over 100 employees, dozens of families, all counting on the business I'd helped build. If I let this blow up uncontrolled, it wouldn't just destroy me, it could destroy them too. That sobered me. For the first time since the nightmare began, my mind started to clear. We went to see Brian Spencer, my longtime business attorney. He reminded me of something I'd nearly forgotten, the prenuptial agreement. Every partner in our firm was required to sign one before marriage, protecting company assets from divorce claims. Your wife can't touch the firm, Brian said. Only your personal holdings, your house, your savings, your 401k. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Here's what I do, buy out Robert's shares. He's been talking about retiring anyway. Move your liquid assets into the company, even if you need a loan to do it. Keep everything protected behind the corporate wall. I nodded slowly, the pieces clicking into place. For the first time since this began, I wasn't just reacting, I was fighting back. The plan was simple, build a firewall she could never breach. It sounded like an impossible task, but compared to letting her walk away with half of everything I'd worked for, it felt like the only choice that made sense. I called Robert first. He didn't question much. Just a pause, then one calm sentence. Why the sudden buyout? I told him the truth, flat and cold. Megan's been cheating. Maybe since day one. There was silence on the line before he finally muttered, I'm sorry, man. Then, without hesitation, he agreed to sell most of his shares, keeping only 5% as a consultant. We met at lunch, drafted the papers, and signed. My hands didn't stop trembling the entire time. Afterward, Michelle and I checked the DNA results again. This time they were posted. She read them first. I'll never forget the look on her face. Her lips parted slightly, eyes glassy, voice soft. I'm so sorry, Gary. My stomach dropped. I took the phone, though part of me already knew what it would say. Both kids, fathered by the same man. But that man wasn't me. The world went still. Every memory, their first steps, their first words, their laughter, replayed in my mind, but now each moment burned instead of warmed. My hands shook and rage began to rise, hot and blinding. Stay focused, Michelle said sharply, cutting through the storm in my head. If you lose control now, you'll lose everything. She guided me out of the diner and straight to Lorraine's office. I felt like I was walking through fog, detached, hollow, watching my own life burn from the outside. Lorraine met us at the door with an update. "We got a preliminary PI report," she said. "Megan had a man over last night. We couldn't see inside, but he used his own key." My chest tightened. Later that evening, reviewing the living room camera footage, I saw him, walking right in, greeted by my son. No, by her son. "Daddy Bill," he shouted, running into the man's arms. That one sound broke me. My tears came in unstoppable waves. There was no more doubt. No more denial. The truth was brutal and absolute. The father was Bill Wainwright, Megan's longtime boss. It hit me like lightning. This affair hadn't just been recent. It might have been there from the very beginning, the entire marriage built on a lie. Lorraine stayed calm, methodical. She cross-checked Bill's name. He was a senior executive at Megan's company, a man bound by a strict non-fraternization policy. "We can go after them," she said. "Her company for negligence, him for alienation of affection, and your wife for falsifying birth records." Her list of strategies came out sharp and fast, each word like a knife, legal, devastating, precise. She was all in on the nuclear route I had chosen. That night I went back to the hotel, numb. I didn't even feel the ground beneath my feet. Michelle knocked on my door not long after. "You shouldn't be alone tonight," she said. "Pack your things. You're coming to my place." I didn't argue. Couldn't. Her home was larger than I expected. Quiet, warm, grounding. She gave me a private room, didn't say much. There was no romantic tension, no blurred lines, just someone making sure I didn't crumble completely. The next few days were a blur of signatures, legal consultations, and cold logic. The buyout with Robert was finalized, and together, Michelle and I shifted my finances strategically. Everything, my liquid assets, savings, even my 401k, was funneled into the company. I took the penalties, refinanced the house, and legally made myself appear nearly broke. Every move was within the limits of the law, protected by the prenuptial agreement and timed perfectly before the divorce papers were filed. By the end, I was the majority shareholder. Everything I had built was now under the company's name, untouchable. Monday morning arrived. Lorraine filed the paperwork, divorce on the grounds of adultery, fraud, and emotional distress. At the same time, she launched a lawsuit against Bill's employer for failing to enforce policy and authorized process servers to hand-deliver everything. One set to Bill at his office, one to HR, and one to Megan herself. At exactly 10 a.m., my phone buzzed, a notification that the divorce papers had been served. 10 minutes later, the rest followed. Then came the calls. But the first wasn't from Megan, it was from my mother. "Gary," she said, her tone sharp, trembling. "What is this letter? What's happening?" "You read it?" I asked quietly. "I did," she said. "And I don't believe it. Megan's your wife, the mother of your children. How can you just throw that away?" "They're not my children," I said, my voice flat. There was a long silence. Then she spoke again, voice breaking. "They're yours in every way that matters." "No," I said, staring at the floor. "They were built on a lie. So you're just walking away? Pretending they meant nothing? You're punishing them for what Megan did," she snapped. "You think they won't suffer because of this? Because you decided you don't want to be their father anymore?" Her words hit me like blows, but I didn't flinch. "I don't want to lose my grandchildren over this," she said finally, voice shaking. "Then don't," I replied coldly. "That's your choice." And I hung up. Seconds later, the phone rang again. This time it was Megan. "Gary, please, we need to talk," she said, her voice soft, trembling. "I'm coming home." I said nothing, just hung up. But home, that was still our house. The place where we'd once laughed, cooked, loved. Now it was just a battlefield. Michelle gave me a quiet hug before leaving me to face Megan alone. I waited in my office, surrounded by emails, relatives responding to the disclosure packet. My father was furious. My sister livid. The whole family now knew. 20 minutes later, the front door slammed. Megan stormed in, hair tangled, eyes wild, and shut the office door behind her. "Gary, I'm not interested," I cut her off. "But please just..." "I said I'm not interested," I repeated, my voice low, shaking. You lied to me for 9 years. You convinced me to get a vasectomy while you were still on the pill. You made sure I'd never have children of my own, all while sleeping with Daddy Bill." Her face went pale, eyes wide with shock. "So no, Megan," I continued, standing. "I don't care what you have to say. My lawyer's contact information is in the packet. If you need to talk to her." "What about the children?" she whispered. "What children?" I asked, my voice rising. "I don't have any children. And if it were up to you, I never would." I turned toward the door and called out, loud enough for her to hear, "You're fired." The nanny, standing in the next room, froze. "What?" she stammered. "You're fired. Effective immediately. Pack your things and get out." "Why?" "Because you covered for her," I said, pointing at Megan. "You knew. Maybe not about the kids, but you knew about the affair. I've got video proof of you talking to Bill about it." "Gary," Megan snapped. "You can't fire her. I pay her wages." The nanny looked at Megan, torn. "Well," I said coldly, "I've already informed the agency about your little arrangement. Don't worry, I'm not taking legal action. But they'll know exactly why." The moment I mentioned that the agency would be removing her from their roster, the color drained from the au pair's face. I told her flatly, "If Megan insists on keeping you, she'll have to pay you out of her own pocket. That means covering your taxes, pension, vacation, sick leave, and every bit of insurance herself." She froze, eyes wide with dawning panic. Losing the job was one thing, but being blacklisted from the agency? That was professional death. Agencies shared information now. She hesitated for only a second before bolting down the hall, her footsteps echoing like a confession. "Did you really have to do that?" Megan said from behind me, voice trembling. "She didn't deserve." "You're talking again," I cut her off coldly. "And I told you, I don't want to hear another word out of your mouth." I turned toward her, years of resentment and betrayal tightening every muscle in my body. "What I do want is for you to pack your things, take your kids, and get the hell out of my house." "This is my house too," she protested, her voice cracking between anger and desperation. "Not according to the paperwork," I shot back. "It's in my name until the court says otherwise. Now get out." My voice rose, echoing through the walls. She flinched at the sound, eyes brimming with tears. Just then, James appeared in the doorway clutching a toy car. "Mommy," he said innocently. Sonia fell down. Megan's face collapsed. She turned away without a word and went to her daughter. I shut the office door before my own emotions could betray me. I sat there, listening to the distant rustle of packing, the muffled sobs, the final creak of suitcase zippers. A few minutes later, she appeared again, Sonia in her arms. "Are you going to say goodbye to?" "Don't even say it," I snapped, standing. "She's not my daughter. And he's not my son. Take them to Daddy Bill and let him take care of his kids. They have nothing to do with me. Gary, please. Get out." When the front door finally shut, the silence that followed was unbearable. My chest caved in and I broke, the kind of breakdown that leaves you gasping, clutching at the air, wondering how your entire world collapsed this fast. Moments later, Michelle slipped quietly through the door. She'd been waiting outside, knowing I'd reached this point. She didn't say a word. She just pulled me into her arms as I sobbed. Somehow, her presence steadied me, like a voice reminding me that I wasn't completely alone. The car engine outside faded. My phone buzzed relentlessly, call after call, all ignored. For the first time in days, I wanted to disappear, to erase the last week and every truth that came with it. But Michelle, ever the anchor, wouldn't let me drown. "Gary," she said softly but firmly, "we still have things to finalize, the HR lawsuit, the company accounts, the financial locks. One step at a time." Hours later, an email notification pierced the silence. Megan had filed a restraining order. Apparently, I had caused her emotional harm. It was a pathetic move, likely orchestrated by her lawyer to paint me as a threat before the court. But Lorraine was already one step ahead. She gathered all the evidence, the cameras, the cloned phone, the DNA results. Within days, the judge overturned the order, noting that I was the one who'd uncovered the deception. Megan moved in with her parents. Bill, meanwhile, watched his world implode. When his company learned he had fathered 2 children with a subordinate, they terminated him instantly for violating their zero-tolerance policy. What followed was a flurry of lawsuits, papers, settlements, cold victories. In the end, the company settled with me for a sizable amount, and Bill himself was forced to pay for alienation of affection. Money that would help me repay the pension fund loan I'd taken. But none of it mattered. I was numb. The real wound wasn't the money or the marriage. It was James and Sonia. I still loved those kids. God, I loved them. But I couldn't face them. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Bill's face overlapping theirs. Maybe that made me a coward. Maybe I deserved that title. But I couldn't do it. Not yet. Megan tried to use them as leverage, emotional hooks to keep me tethered. She begged me to stay in their lives, but I didn't respond. I wasn't ready. Weeks passed, then a month. I sold the house at a loss, didn't care. The walls felt tainted, every room echoing with ghosts of what I'd lost. Michelle let me stay in her spare room. We were cordial, professional, almost mechanical around each other. But there was something new in the air, something unspoken. She checked on me more often than she needed to, always making sure I ate, always sensing when the silence got too heavy. The day the divorce was finalized, I sat at my desk staring at the official envelope. My hands hesitated before opening it. Inside, freedom. A single sheet of paper declaring my marriage legally dead. Relief, sadness, emptiness, they all crashed together. Then my phone rang. It was Michelle. "Gary," she said quietly, "Bill Wainwright is dead." I froze. Her words barely made sense. What? His wife found him with Megan, she said softly. She shot him. I sat there staring at the wall. Part of me felt horror, another part, grim satisfaction. So that was his ending. The man who destroyed my family wouldn't even live to raise the kids he stole from me. Was that justice? Or just another tragedy? I didn't know. But I couldn't lie to myself. I didn't feel pity. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, I muttered. Michelle didn't scold me. She just nodded quietly and stepped into my office a moment later, holding an envelope. "This came too," she said. "Final settlement from Bill's case." Inside was a check. Enough to cover every debt I'd accumulated through the chaos. For the first time in months, I felt untethered. Free. As I leaned back, exhaling, Michelle closed the office door. She didn't say a word. Then she stepped closer, close enough that I could feel her warmth. Without hesitation, she kissed me, slow, deliberate, filled with something real. When she pulled back, my heart was pounding for an entirely new reason. "For 9 years I've taken care of you," she said softly. "You've always been decent, loyal, kind, even when your whole world was falling apart. You never crossed a line. You never lost your integrity. I've waited, Gary, and I want to show you something. Not every woman lies, and not every love ends in heartbreak." Her words cut through my defenses like sunlight through a storm. Memories flooded back. Every glance, every small act of kindness, every silent proof of loyalty I'd been too blind, too broken to see. Maybe I'd been searching for healing in all the wrong places, when the answer had been standing right beside me all along. And then I remembered something Dr. Trenton had said once, that vasectomy reversals were often successful. For the first time in what felt like forever, something fragile but real stirred inside me. "Hope." I smiled, voice trembling. "How many kids do you think we should have?" She grinned, warm, confident, radiant in the way only truth can be. "At least 2, she said softly. "But let's just see where this goes." And in that single breath I understood. My life hadn't been destroyed. It had been reset. Broken pieces finding new shapes, pain transforming into peace. The past was ashes now, scattered, silent. But from those ashes, something better was quietly being born. Yes, a part of me will always ache for the children I once thought were mine. But I've learned that life doesn't end with heartbreak. Sometimes heartbreak is the door to freedom. And maybe, just maybe, that's the fairest trade of all. If this story moved you, don't leave without subscribing to Dark Infidelity Stories, where every lie unravels, every truth bleeds, and every ending is a lesson in disguise. Like, share, and comment your thoughts below. because sometimes the story you hear might just mirror the one you're living.